Welcome to Stimulate Conversations, a sexual wellness business discussions podcast that supports the vast range of professionals supporting consumers from a business perspective within the sexual wellness space. My name is Nicole Lameck, your host, and the founder of Stimulate, a B2B sexual wellness trade show held annually in Nashville, as well as many other Stimulate experiences throughout the year. I'm also author of the book Retail 101 from McGraw-Hill and professor of retail marketing at Columbia, Chicago. From head to toe, young to mature, purpose to pleasure, Stimulate Conversations is committed to supporting sexual wellness professionals. Together with industry leaders as our guests, we look forward to delivering trusted and important conversations to help support retail, wholesale, spa, salon, and medical professionals who collectively want to help elevate and support their consumers within the sexual wellness community from an educated and professional perspective. Listeners of Stimulate Conversations can look forward to gaining expert-led insight from industry leaders ranging from doctors to retail operational experts to industry visionaries and more. Without further ado, let's dive into Stimulate Conversations. Welcome to another edition of Stimulate Conversations, where I'm so excited to welcome Kathryn Byberg, who's the founder of Little Leaf Agency. Kathryn is well-versed within communications, marketing, PR, and so much more, and I look forward to having her here today and sharing her wisdom within the sexual wellness community and her expertise within that community more specifically. Welcome, Kathryn.
Hi, thank you very much for having me today, Nicole. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to welcome you. And I know we're in different parts of the world. Home to you is Germany. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm living in Munich. Now, based on my accent, I'm not from Munich. I'm from Ireland originally. But yes, Munich bound. Amazing.
Well, I certainly love the global perspective that you're going to be sharing with us today.
Yeah.
But to kick things off, why don't you tell people what Little Leaf Agency is and does?
Yes. So I founded Little Leaf Agency roughly about 3 years ago. We are a sexual wellness PR and communications agency. I started the agency after working within the sexual wellness world. I worked at one of the biggest sex toy brands out there called Lalo. And I came across many challenges working in-house as their marketing and communications director, trying to get agencies to work with us, trying to get journalists to work with us. So I opened Little Leaf Agency, and we now support a lot of sexual wellness brands around the world in their PR, their communications, their social media, their affiliate marketing, any type of communications channel that's going to really hone in on the consumer. That's where we specialize, and we work with some of the biggest brands in the world. We work with Fun Factory. I believe they're going to be at the next Stimulate conference. So yeah,
yes.
The wonderful team, Kristen, I think she's going to be one of your guests too, which is fabulous. We work with Byberg and Good Vibrations, some big retailers in the US. We work with Uberlube, a fabulous lubricant brand, sustainable sex toy brand, Love Not War, pheromone brands, Eye of Love, and many, many more. Erica Lust. I mean, from sex toys to steamy erotica, we cover the entire spectrum of sexual wellness, and it's fabulous.
I love that you said the entire spectrum. So from our perspective at Stimulate, we refer to that as head to toe, young to mature, purpose to pleasure. And it certainly sounds like you cover that as well when it comes to supporting sexual wellness.
Yes, 100%. We have worked with vulvovaginal wellness brands. There's a wonderful brand called Momotaro Apotheca. We, from the inside right out, from feeling confident in yourself, using pheromones to feel confident, from lubricants to the visual pornography that you watch, ethical pornography. The one thing that we specialize in, obviously, besides sexual wellness, we are very particular in the brands that we work with. And everybody that we work with has to be super sex positive and also very, very ethical and, promote an entire whole body sexual wellness experience, essentially.
Well, I really love that. And I know Fun Factory is a great example of that because they have production that is ethically minded, so to speak, which I think is one of the values that we certainly embrace. We embrace so many different values, sex positive course, being one of them. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, Kathryn, was you've had such a rich history within this category. So you've seen the growth, you've seen the challenges. So, here we are today in 2024 with a show like Stimulate in the marketplace. Of course, there's a variety of shows out there. There's a variety of products out there as well. It's like what you said, inside out. So what can you kind of take us backwards a bit and talk to us through like what you've seen in terms of evolution of sexual wellness in recent years?
Yeah, so I started in the industry, it was 12 years ago, I believe. I moved out to Shanghai and I worked at Leilo's global headquarters. And back then, there were very few sex and relationship editors. When we were trying to get stories into the media, it was a challenge. We really were still in the shadows then. Now in 2024, we're fully out there in the mainstream. I mean, sexual pleasure products are stocked in the shelves of Sephora. We're in Target. We're in all of those big mainstream retail channels. And, sexual wellness it's the whole entire landscape has completely changed. And one of the big driving factors was social media. So 12 years ago, social media was really only starting to really play a big part in PR and communications, likewise with influencers. So that's really helped it to change the conversation and get people talking. 12 years ago, editors were afraid. If I went to them with a story and said, hey, let's talk about, these wonderful butt plugs, they would be horrified. It was a really, really hard sell. Whereas nowadays, publications realize that there's money to be made. They realize, just as well as retailers as well too, and those mainstream retailers, they realize that sexual wellness is here to stay. People are now finally talking about it. They're taking it seriously. Yeah. And we're starting to see it creep into all areas and aspects of our life. And it's making my job a lot easier. But at the same time, there are a lot of challenges. We're still shadow banned when it comes to social media. We still face a lot of challenges there. I think there's a lot of ways that we're going to grow and evolve. We can go into it in a lot more detail as well. But for me, kind of that we're at a point now where sexual wellness, people talk about it. People go out for dinner with their friends. They'll actually admit and say, hey, has anybody tried the latest, air suction toy? And people will actually talk about it amongst friends. Where we're starting to see other changes now. So we've got female sexual wellness it's in the mainstream. Male sexual wellness is not quite there. It's definitely starting to change and evolve. And I think that's going to be a really, really big thing this year. The way I like to look at sexual wellness and how it has evolved and changed is, 20 years ago, every celebrity was endorsing a perfume brand. And right now we're getting every celebrity is coming out of the woodworks and they're endorsing sexual wellness, which is fabulous. It just shows how far we have come. Nice. The challenges that we had 12 years ago, where people didn't want to talk about us, where PR agencies didn't want to work with brands, they would shy away from it. Where marketing agencies didn't understand the challenges that sexual wellness actually faces. They were treating us like any other brand out there. And you can't do that when it comes to sexual wellness. And we're now at a point in the marketing and PR kind of journey where it's all changing and evolving. It's a very exciting time.
It is. You said so much that I want to dive into a little bits and pieces of each of this. My first is just going to be, you mentioned the celebrity endorsement, which I do think is a very strong connectivity to consumers. I think when we really reel it back and unravel why it values within the retail and sexual wellness category, is because that's how consumers connect to brands. And so it breaks stigma, I should say, and it brings a more comfortable conversation to the shelves. So offhand, I know we have, of course, Christina Aguilera with one of the founders of Playground, which is a science-backed company as well, but also with Christina Aguilera working with them. We have Gillian Anderson, who's an actress. We have Naomi Watts. Who else is out there I'm missing? I know there's quite a few.
I mean, we need to go back. One of the very original ones was Gwyneth Paltrow. That was a big change. That was a game changer in the market. Next up was when Lily Allen came out for Womanizer. She did a fabulous campaign where she just said, I masturbate. And it was like that. for me, that was the turning point. I think Goop and Lily Allen, both of those were the turning point. Obviously, we've got Maud as well too. We've got Dakota Johnson, and we've got it's building. There are celebrities, as you say, kind of every brand kind of is now, and it's they're sorry, got to take a step back. Let me try that one again. So, okay. So for me, the things with celebrities, we need to go back to the very first key turning point for me was Goop and Gwyneth Paltrow. That was when sex toys finally kind of people started looking, people started taking attention. That was the first mainstream channel that we really saw them on. Womanizer followed this up with a fabulous campaign with Lily Allen where they got her to literally say, I masturbate. Such a simple message, but it got people talking. And we're now at a point where we have, the fabulous Maud, and we have, we've got Dakota Johnson from Maud. We've got all of these celebrities really changing the narrative and making sexual wellness and sexual pleasure normal. Everybody owns a sex toy. Everybody masturbates. And now we finally have these people that we look up to talking about it. It's great. And I think it's really helping the younger generations too. They really, Gen Z and millennials, Gen Z does look around to influencers a lot more. So having these celebrities come out and actually talk about it is, it's a fabulous thing to be happening.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And it did just spark my mind, though. Chris Martin was married to Gwyneth Paltrow, and now he's engaged to Dakota Johnson. So I wonder what he's doing to help build this growth behind the scenes, if you will. But
he's the muse in the background.
That's exactly right. Yes. And then, speaking to influencers, that leads me to social media, which, of course, is such a huge influence in general to consumers and more specifically sexual wellness. So there's so many barriers, though, that we still face within that social media avenue of communication. So what's your best advice for retailers, brands, anybody listening when it comes to communicating and marketing via social media within this space as well?
Yeah. So, you've got two different types of channels that we're looking at here. You've got social media, your own earned social media channels and the content that you develop on your own channels. And then on top of that, you will have the influencers channels as well too. And they're two slightly different kind of communication channels, and we tackle them slightly differently. Whenever you're approaching an influencer, you need to remember that their channel, if they're big, this is how they're making their money, and they still have potentially the opportunity. They still have the potential to be shadow banned. They still have the potential to get their account shut down. So a lot of more mainstream lifestyle orientated influencers are going to be very picky and very selective, but that's great because from a brand point of view, you don't want to go and work with an influencer that is every week talking about a different sexual wellness product. You lose that authenticity. And it's very important to find an influencer that their audience will want to hear about your product. At the end of the day, there's no point picking somebody that their audience is so far away from what your key target demographic is. So you need to find somebody that's going to have the right audience for you, and make sure that influencer, when you are working with them, has the opportunity, the ability to still use their own voice. Their audience will be able to spot a mile away if the content is paid for. If they don't typically hold up a product and say, "Hey, I just tried out this new sex toy," it comes across as fake. And the whole point behind using influencers should be to try and get that authentic. It's that authenticity. It's building trust with their consumers. Another downfall that a lot of brands would make is when they're working with an influencer, they'll take out one post and that will be it. And we all know from a marketing point of view, that just doesn't work. You need to hear a message 6 times before you'll actually go, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go and check out the website, check out that product." It's better to build longer term partnerships with influencers than it is to, select a whole random bunch of people. So, be really, really selective. The advice I can give to brands is be really selective when it comes to the influencers that you do work with, and really, treat them, that their content, let them have the ability to develop their own content that's going to resonate best with their audience. And then it's the same with your own social media channels. Find, you know, people just don't want stock images all the time. They don't want static images, and particularly Gen Z. Gen Z is very into video format. That's why TikTok is, it's a massive growing channel. YouTube is a massive growing channel, and they're channels that we as marketeers really should be tapping into. So whenever you're developing your own content on your social channels, think about what channels you're on. Think about why you're on those channels, and what is it the person's actually, what is that consumer doing on your channel? If I'm sitting on the sofa and I'm scrolling through, TikTok or Instagram, I don't necessarily want to have products shoved in my face. I want to experience that brand. I want to get a flavor for their storytelling. And it's not necessarily a sales channel. It's more about building trust and building, kind of a following for your brand, building trust in your brand.
Absolutely. It's very humanized.
Yeah.
I think consumers want to feel as if they can connect to someone on that human level versus this, ooh, it was a paid ad, or ooh, they're just holding that up and showing it to me because they're making money on it. Or for your point too, like stock images aren't going to go too far nowadays. Video can go much further. They love hearing the random mistake someone says, stumbling over a word, because I think that's what holds people back, is they fear that they have to be perfect, but yet really what attracts them to other brands and people are in fact those human touch points. So I always remind people, like, hey, just be yourself. That's what people are relating to here, including identifying what they relate to with products as well, right? So like, this is why they wait, like one toy or something else. And I kind of want to dive into that in a little more depth with you too, from a retailer perspective. I know you work with retailers in addition to brands. A lot of retailers that we connect with at our show, Stimulate, which is held in August in Nashville, questions that we hear from them are, hey, how do we use social media to better connect to our customers? And a lot of their part-time or full-time or even the owners shy away because they feel like it's too intimate to put themselves out there. So what's your advice to somebody in that position?
So a lot of the retailers, they're gonna face a lot of different challenges. Their social channels are a little bit different because it's not their own product. There's lots of different brands that they're working with. But a lot of these brands have fabulous content. A lot of these brands are willing to create joint content. They're willing to do brand partnership giveaways on social media. And it's a really natural way to build your following and to increase your following. On top of that too, most of the retailers that we work with anyway, like Byberg has the fabulous sex educator Lisa Finn, and Good Vibes has Dr. Carol Queen, probably the legendary sex educator Dr. Carol Queen. And a lot of these brands, they have people in-house that can talk authoritatively, that has a really authentic voice for their audience. So use these people, get them making videos, ask them very quick questions about, kind of what are the hottest sex trends, and use the people that you have on your team. As you said, people want real people. That's how you connect with them. They don't want just the stock images. They want to see who are the real people behind the brand. And retailers have people on the shop floor that are out there on a day-to-day basis. They understand the sexual problems that people have. They have people coming into their stores talking to them. So they really get the essence of, what it is people are looking for. So tap into that. There's a lot of potential there. And just because you're a retailer doesn't mean that you're not a real kind of, you yourself. It's still a brand. You've got your brand there. You've got your voices within your brand, and you've got wonderful opportunities to still make your own content.
Absolutely. I think that own original content is so huge, and leveraging your team for their own wisdom, because nobody connects better to, particularly a brick and mortar store, a physical community of consumers, than the stores themselves. They know their town, they know their local residents, they know their local consumer. And then of course their digital reach is so much further. So we always want to support that as well. At least that's what I would encourage a retailer to make sure that they're using that digital offering, which for someone like yourself who has worked all over the world, I would have to imagine you could agree because you've been everywhere.
Well, yes, I've been around from Shanghai to the US to Germany, yes, and it's the same all around. I think kind of one of the key things now to retailers that are succeeding is their digital marketing. It's their direct to consumer kind of digital presence is really it's what's making a difference. I mean, obviously we had the pandemic. We had a lot of retail stores had to shut their doors, and that was an opportunity for a lot of brands to get online. It was also an opportunity for a lot of brands that were already online to really increase their presence there. For a lot of stores too, having an online presence, it doesn't necessarily compete with your retail locations. It's something that adds to it. I mean, think about, what does a natural consumer do whenever they want to buy a sex toy? They sit in their house, they'll research it. It's quite a private thing to do. So the consumer is going to sit in their house. They're going to go onto Google or YouTube, depending on their age demographic. If they're millennial like myself, they'll be on Google. If they're younger Gen Z, they could be on Instagram. They could be on YouTube looking for what's the hot new sex toy. And they're going to come up with different listicles. They're going to find Cosmo. They're going to go to these publications that they really trust, like Cosmo or Men's Health. And in there, they'll have these authors talking about what are the best sex toys. That's where retailers need to be. They need to be in there, not just the brands, but they need to get their links in there and then get all that good traffic coming into their website. And then once the people are on the website, the consumers there, you need to have some really, really good content. It's not just social media. You need to have, something real on don't rely, as I said, just on those stock images, and even using something as simple as Canva these days, you can create your own type of images there, and give yourself, make sure you've got a real personality, and don't just, for me, one of the things I really think is very important when it comes to your online website and your online presence is building a complete ecosystem. Make sure you've got really interesting blogs that people can find content that they might be searching for. How do I have sex after a baby? Or, why am I finding it harder to orgasm during menopause? So find these, depending on who your target audience is, you write these blog articles that will pull them in. They get into an ecosystem, and they'll start to really trust you as well too. That's a really important thing for brands and for retailers to be doing to build that ecosystem, that community online. And whether somebody purchases online or in store, they're still going to make a purchase if they feel that connection to the brand.
Yeah, I love how you've identified that path to purchase. It's built around that ecosystem. Because as a consumer myself, and also I would define myself as a retail geek, I do think we all take that journey of a path to purchase. Often it starts on Google, often it starts on TikTok, often it starts over a conversation with friends, right? Like, I just saw an article and did you know this? And they're referring maybe to a recent Cosmopolitan article about sex toys or something else. But I think the ecosystem is so important because no matter where a customer lands, you want to make sure they're landing with you. You don't want them to steer off course of that path to purchase and go somewhere else. So I love that. I love how you say that.
In today's world, that's becoming a lot more challenging. We're at this fabulous point where there are a lot more brands out there now. 10 years ago, there was Lalo, there was Fun Factory, Womanizer was starting to come onto the market. Whereas now we have, it seems like every month there's a new brand popping up, a new fabulous brand, which is great. But it also means that the landscape's becoming a lot more competitive. There are a lot more brands out there that are competing to get onto that page number 1 on Google. So you need to be, brands need to be a lot more clever on how to position themselves, how to get on there, how to get onto the best 10 listicles, the roundups of the best sex toys on the likes of Cosmo, how to, it is a more challenging time, even though we're more open now, it does feel like we can have these conversations. It is, from a marketing point of view, it's challenging, but it's very exciting for brands. And that's why it's so key and important for them to be really tackling this right now.
100% should not agree more with you. It's competitive, quite frankly, and competition makes us more challenged, right? But that's a good thing. And the world of commerce is so vast and there's so much opportunity, which is why it's so exciting to see the growth in this space as well. So before we get to our rapid fire questions, which I'm excited to ask you about here, I want you to share, if you can, your best advice for emerging brands in particular, because right now we are seeing a rise of these emerging brands. I know at Stimulate, we have quite a few that will be in attendance. We talk to them all the time. And some of them are not able to afford an agency yet, but many of them want to. So if you can kind of take us on that journey of what's a small budget emerging brand or just startup growth brand, what is their best piece of advice? And then take us to when they're finally able to hopefully one day bring in external support. What does that look like as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have been approached by quite a lot of these emerging brands to come in and do their PR. And I think for a lot of them, they look at PR and think, oh, this will be a sales tool. PR is about building your reputation. It's about building brand awareness for you and really building that reputation. It is not going to drive sales for you if your website is not built up to convert. So I think one of the key things is get your house in order first. Before you start inviting people into your house, make sure your house is in order. So make sure your website, has a really good consumer journey, is built up for good conversions, and that you've got a solid kind of base before you actually start to really build on that PR. Emerging brands can start doing their own social content themselves. They can start to build that essentially their brand presence that way first. And then once you feel that your website is in a place to start converting and you've really tackled that first, that's when it's time to bring in PR, because PR will not drive sales if your actual storefront isn't set up to actually, generate sales. And that's a big problem a lot of brands in the beginning do have. And it's I'd say that's probably my key thing before you bring PR in. Don't treat it like it's a sales tool. Yeah, that would be the key one.
That is fantastic advice. I mean, I know when I was growing up, my mom always said, make sure your house is pulled together before because she loved to entertain. Like, she would always kind of teach me that. In some ways, it's old school, but it makes so much sense to be like, quite frankly, get your shit together before you're ready to invite customers, in this case, guests, however you want to look at it, into your space. It makes perfect sense to me. So now let's take us on that journey of they're ready for you. Their house is in order. So they get to call Little Leaf Agency and they get to say, okay, build our reputation. What happens at that point?
So if they're an online brand, one of the first things I will say to them is, what is it you're actually looking PR to do for you? A lot of people don't have a very clear idea in their head of why they're approaching us and what it is that they're actually looking for. But for a lot of brands, a lot of startup brands, they need to get in front of the consumer, number one, but they also need to start building trust with the consumer. They need to start getting reviews out there of their products. When it comes to sexual wellness, it's not like we're trying to sell clothes here or we're trying to sell a perfume. You can't go into a store and just try it on. That's just not how it works. So whenever you're trying to sell a product to somebody, they're going to go, as I said before, they're going to sit online. They're going to research what's the hottest new sexual wellness, whether it's a lubricant or, pornography or the erotic novel, whatever it may be.
Right.
Whenever they go online, you need to be in those top 10 listicles. So whenever it comes to PR, we have I like to think about it as that there are like three kind of main types of PR. First one is your bread and butter PR. It's evergreen content. So you need to get into those listicles. You need to be on the editors, on their radar and get into their listicles. Now, how do you get into their listicles? Right. You need to send them samples, obviously. They need to try the product. But more importantly, a lot of these publications, they have lost a lot of advertising over the past kind of decade. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago. They rely heavily on affiliate marketing. A lot of the big websites like Cosmopolitan, like BuzzFeed, their articles are monetized and they use affiliate marketing. So get yourself, I always recommend for any brand, before I even start doing PR for them, if they want product
Yeah.
PR, they need to have an affiliate marketing platform set up. They need to be on skim links when it comes to PR. So that's a service that we'll offer for a lot of our clients, and we'll get that set up and established with them first. That will allow you to get into these top 10 listicles, and that will essentially start to build that trust. Now, on top of that, these articles are never going to get a massive amount of traffic. They're never going to, they're once they go live, over the course of a year, you'll get small incremental amounts of traffic, but it helps to build your website domain authority. It helps to rank you better in Google. And on top of that, it's evergreen. It will perform for you for years to come. You have a different type of PR then as well, where we have campaigns. This is building your brand awareness. This is some of our clients will say, I want everybody to know about me. I don't care about, kind of the incremental stuff. I want to arrive with a bang, with a big splash. And that's where PR campaigns come into play. You need something that's really newsworthy, that's going to spread like wildfire. But in a month's time, that article will never bring you any further traffic. All it does in the beginning is build that brand awareness and get people talking on social. Right. And then on top of that, you need to start building the presence of the brand in the retail channels and the B2B channels. You need to try and get into business publications. And, if brands are looking for investors, there's a slightly different PR tactic that we'll look at there, and we'll start to try and place them into different business publications. So, first up, we always sit down with the brand and we try to figure out what is it they're actually looking for. Why have they reached out to us? What is their business strategy? Where is it they're hoping to go? And then we'll come in and we'll look at their website. We'll look at kind of what they've done previously, and we'll say to them, okay, you're ready for PR. Let's do that. But on top of that, maybe you need to do affiliate marketing. Maybe you should be writing some blogs, and we'll come in and we'll write blogs for them. Or we'll say, let's take over, let's do some brand partnerships. Let's get you aligned with other brands. And we tailor everything specifically to each brand that comes to us. I mean, every brand's at a different journey. Fun Factory they're a well-established brand. They've been around for 26 years. So what they need PR-wise is very different to what Love the War, sustainable startup brand, is going to need, So we sit down and we have a conversation and we figure out what the client needs.
What amazing, amazing insight. There's so many things we could talk about more, but I would encourage our listeners to follow you by tuning into where. What is your best place for them to get in touch if they want to reach out?
Yeah, so check out our website at littleleaf.agency. And you can find out all of our social channels there. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're on LinkedIn as well too. But littleleaf.agency is our main kind of, we've got an example of kind of the work that we do, some of the clients we work with, and we've got contact form in there as well too.
Fantastic. So great insight. Everybody definitely make sure you check them out. And finally, as part of the Stimulate Conversations experience, I have some quick rapid fire questions for you. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and if you can simply reply with a quick few words each answer, that would be great. You ready to go?
Go for it.
Awesome. What does sexual wellness mean to you?
It is the complete whole body experience, from mind to body, taking care of yourself.
And how do you define good customer service?
Listening to your customers, really listening to them. Being real.
Mm-hmm. So what keeps you personally inspired?
All of the amazing women around me, all of the amazing women in sexual wellness that are changing the conversation on a daily basis and pushing the boundaries.
And what about professionally inspired? Sounds like there could be a little overlap, which totally makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit of an overlap there. Professionally, for me, it's seeing the underdogs actually succeed, seeing those smaller brands win.
Oh, I love that. That's great advice. Or great rapid fire, I should say. So what about your final question here? What's your best piece of advice for business leaders in general?
Gonna have a little sip of water and then I'll think about that one. Best piece of advice for business leaders.
Yep.
Trust your gut. Don't be afraid. You know, if you don't take that leap, and you know, we're all business leaders for a reason. We have all trusted our gut, and we've all had to make that big leap, and just believe in yourself. I mean, you know, all of us to get to this point, to be a business leader in the first place, we've succeeded. So just believe. Mm-hmm.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Kathryn. And on behalf of the entire Stimulate team, we appreciate you sharing your time and your wisdom with us today. And to those who have tuned in, thank you as well.
Thank you very much. It was lovely talking. Bye.
It was great. Bye. Stimulate Conversations offers year-round ways to stay in touch between our podcasts, including a private Facebook community for ongoing and more in-depth discussions, which you can find via Facebook at the group name Stimulate, Sexual Wellness Business Discussions. You can also stay connected via Instagram at the handle Stimulate the Show. And you're welcome to email us at stimulate@retailminded.com. I'm Nicole Leinbach, founder of Stimulate and your host. And together with the entire Stimulate team, we look forward to continued discussions that will, you guessed it, keep you stimulated on the business of sexual wellness. Till next time, stay stimulated.